Welcome to the third webinar of our program dedicated to exploring the element of air kicks. That's right. We can connect with our lower limbs and project energy through those limbs as well as through the upper limbs. The element of air kicks are different from the element of water kicks, mostly in a way that they project energy all the way to the tips of the toes. Sometimes you're going to use the ball of the foot instead of the toes. You don't want to hurt the toes sometimes. Well, in most cases, you don't want to hurt your toes. Sometimes you may use the top of the foot instead of the sole of the foot. And again, project energy, for example, with a roundhouse kick, all the way to the tips of your toes, like this. Same also applies to the lotus kick. So literally sending a wave. It's like a flicking motion with the hand or the wrist. Same thing with the foot. Imagine that you have some dirt or mud on the soles of your shoes. And you want to make it fly. Just literally kick it off of your shoes. How would you make the dirt or mud fly? Probably would make a movement like a soccer kick. But watch where the energy of this kick is going to send this mud. We want to make sure that it flies in the direction where you want it to fly. So for example, if it's a lotus kick, it will fly upwards and spiraling. If it is a roundhouse kick, it will fly more horizontally and at a tangent. If it is a front kick, it would fly more or less horizontally and directly away from you. If it is a side kick, you want it to fly sideways, as the name implies. Then you relax your leg after each kick. You relax the leg and place it down wherever the foot would be at a reasonable distance from the standing foot. So you don't want to land too far away. You want to land at a reasonable distance. Maybe the distance that you acquire by simply jumping and landing softly when you perform natural stance. Don't forget about the alignment of the spine and the neck and head when you're making side kicks or roundhouse kicks. When you make a rear kick, same idea also applies. So you send energy directly backwards. Sometimes you make a rear kick with the back foot turning 180 degrees. So for me, my left foot right now is behind me. I'm going to use that foot to perform a rear kick. Like this. Or if my left foot is in front of me, then I'm going to kick with the right foot. In profile, it looks like this. And finally, let's take a look at the crescent kick. Crescent kick comes up and then kind of flicks this energy and imaginary mud downwards, spiraling towards the ground. And then eventually the foot drops down. It has a little bit of a flicking motion at the very top of its trajectory. So you may also experience the mud flying at that point. If that's the case, that's not a problem. It is simply descending from that point on down, and the power of this kick comes mostly from using gravity. Just descending down with your center of mass will give the power to the crescent kick. Obviously, these kicks can also be done in a more interesting, more advanced fashion. We call them aerial kicks. So not all element of air kicks are aerial kicks, but all aerial kicks belong to the element of air. What's the aerial kick? It's the kick during which neither one of your feet touches the ground. That means you're either up in air or you're just about to land with one of your feet on the floor. We can also perform these kicks in the same 6 directions. For example, the front kick. It starts with a step of the front foot, just like we always do the front kick. But it's the front foot that's going to kick. I'm going to step with the front foot and then make the movement with the opposite leg, as if I'm making a knee kick. But it's mostly dedicated to just lifting the knee and generating some momentum, uplifting my center of mass, kind of like this. And then I will perform the kick with the front foot, the same foot that I pushed away from the ground with. Once again. Notice how the very apex of the movement of the kick happens right at the time or very close to the moment in time when the landing foot lands on the ground. When it lands, it actually can provide you a little bit extra support. So when you kick target while you're still suspended up in air, you may push yourself away from the target. But if your opposite foot immediately provides you support on the ground, then your aerial kick actually will have the benefits of the aerial kick without the cons of the aerial kick. The benefits of aerial kick, for example, is that it allows you to cover a great distance. For example, if my target is far away from me, where I wouldn't be able to reach with a regular kick, I will go forward with an aerial kick. I will literally cover much greater distance by simply flying forward and then kicking. Once again, step with the front foot, push away from the ground with the front foot, and kick. That basically means that one leg performs 2 functions: pushing away from the ground and kicking. That means you have to be pretty nimble on your feet. That particular leg obviously will have more work to do. The other leg doesn't have that much work to do, and that's okay for the time being. You're just simply using that as a secondary movement. So the front kick, once again, is the kick with the front foot that steps first, pushes, and kicks. Similar dynamics also occur with other kicks. For example, side kick. I'm going to step with the right foot to my right, push away from the ground using the right leg, and lift the left knee up in the air in my center line. That will give me momentum upwards, but I'm also going to start flying sideways. And right about the time when I bring my left foot down on the floor, I will complete the right side kick. Kind of like this. Or in the left side, it's going to look like this. So essentially, it doesn't matter to me which direction I'm going. I'm just simply going to kick with the same foot that I push away from the ground with. Side kick can also cover quite a bit of distance, especially if you take a noticeable initial step. So it gives you an ability to cover probably 7 or 8 feet farther than a regular kick. For example, a regular kick, side kick, would go maybe this far. If I take a side step and push away from the ground and then kick with that same leg, I'm going to go probably 6 feet or more farther in this direction. Kind of like this. Same thing on this direction. Instead of this far, where I can reach with the element of air kick using just a regular side kick. I'm going to take an aerial kick, fly through the air and then kick. Kind of like this. And you can see how I'm not in a hurry to drop the leg after it's kicked. I relax it. I can even kick again if necessary. So for example, I kick, boom, boom. Or kick and maybe step somewhere else. Or maybe kick and use the hand to follow up after the kick. Follow through instead of falling through. It's easy to fall through after a kick. So again, it's a crucial thing to remember not to spread yourself too thin. So we looked at the front kick, side kick. Now how about a rear kick? Remember I was just mentioning that you can use the back foot or the back leg to perform the rear kick? Well, aerial kick uses the front leg turning in the opposite direction. It may sound a little bit confusing, so let me explain. If my left foot is in front of me, instead of kicking to the right leg, as a normal, regular rear kick, I'm going to go in the opposite direction, as if I'm making a roundhouse kick with the opposite leg, but I'm not making a roundhouse kick. I'm just using this leg to create a momentum, and then I will kick with the same foot that's in front of me. That is the same foot that I'm going to also use to push away from the ground. Kind of like this. So I step with that foot a little bit, start making a movement with the opposite knee, as if I'm making a roundhouse kick. I don't do a roundhouse kick in this case. I just simply use it for momentum and then perform the rear kick with the same leg that I push away from the ground with. Kind of like this. So, step, turn, push, and kick. It doesn't have to be a high kick, but it needs to be precise. So you have to look at the target, like this. If you don't look at the target, ideally under your shoulder, you're going to miss the target. Or you're going to hit somebody else instead of the right person. Other kicks that we also explore in our program are roundhouse and crescent kicks. Let's take a look at a roundhouse kick. We are going to make a roundhouse kick with the same foot as the foot that's going to be used for pushing away from the ground. Again, the front leg. I take a step with this foot and I start turning already. And I start making a movement with the opposite leg as if I'm going to make a knee kick, like a lotus kick. Again, I'm going to use it for momentum, kind of like this. And then roundhouse kick. Once again. And what happens there is that I kick with the same leg that I stepped with and pushed from the ground with. If I switch sides, it'll look like this. Step, turn, kick. Step, turn, kick. Again. Step, turn, kick. All of these movements obviously can get you dizzy. I feel a little dizzy right now. So I'm going to start spinning in the opposite direction. And I'm going to use crescent kick now. Normally, we just lift the leg and then descend down, following a spiral trajectory to perform a crescent kick. In the case of aerial kicks, again, similar to roundhouse. We turn, make a movement with the opposite knee as if we're performing a lotus kick. But no lotus kick in this case. We just simply use this knee kick to provide us momentum upwards and spiraling up. And then whip the kicking leg out and kick with it on the downward spiral, kind of like this. Over the other leg. It's important that your leg is bent sufficiently at the knee. If it's not bent sufficiently, you're going to try to swing the straight leg, which is no good. It needs to whip out, kind of like this. That is a crescent kick, my friend. Last but not the least is the lotus kick. How are we going to do lotus kick in the midair? Well, kind of like this. If my right foot is in front of me, I'm going to perform movement with the left knee as if it's a crescent kick, actually. But I'm not making full-fledged crescent kick, I'm just using this for momentum. And then I push away from the ground with the front leg and kick with it, kind of like this. Or with the opposite leg. Now we're going to continue our exploration of the element of air kicks, and we're going to take a look at the snake movements with the legs. That's right, it's possible to make movements not only with the hands and arms, but also with the legs that follow the same principle of snake movements. And the snake movements are the movements that follow the tip of the limb. So for example, the tips of the fingers lead, and then the wrist follows, and then the elbow follows, and the shoulder follows, and the same thing happens with the feet. The toes lead, and then the ankles follow, and then the knee follows, and then the hip follows. That means the snake movements follow the reversed sequence as compared to the waves, where the waves originate from the center and ripple towards the periphery. So for example, the wave movement would be like the hip moves, and then the knee moves, and the ankle moves, and then the toes move. Instead of the wave movement, we start looking at the snake movements, where the toes move first. Let's see how we can use this. So for example, Stefan, would you do me a favor and just make a front kick right into my stomach?
All right.
That's what I'm using the snake movements for. I usually use them to protect myself. Would you make the same movement again? So what we're doing is essentially protecting against kicks using legs. I don't want to use my arms against kicks. If you make the same kick again, I don't want to use my arms. It may work, but legs are always stronger than arms. Would you make the same kick again? I certainly don't want to block the kick, because it's going to hurt me more than it's going to hurt my opponent. So instead, if you do the same kick again, I just simply make a snake movement, and of course then also can transition to kicking the standing leg of my opponent, or using my arms. So for example, if you make the same kick again, so here for instance, I can use my arms, put them down, or I can do the same kick again. So I can work on his legs, and I also can do something like this combination of legs and arms and everything else integrated. So there's basically movements. Is your nose okay?
There we go.
Okay. So let's make one more kick like that. So here, for example, I'm making also the movement that spreads his legs wider. See how uncomfortable and unstable it is to stand like this?
Oh yeah.
It's because the distance between his feet is too great. You've heard me talking about it for years. You don't want to fall through after kicks because you end up with too much of distance between your feet. Funny thing is that in a lot of martial arts, people train to take wide stances. They think this is a stable stance. But it's not a stable stance. It's actually less stable. Like for example, if you do me a favor and push me now.
Sure.
There's no stability there. If I take a natural stance and you push me now, no big deal. I'm not easily pushed over. If my feet are too close together and you push me now, you can push me over. So there is a sweet spot. Not too wide, not too narrow. Just like with everything that we study. And when you find that sweet spot, basically you know that if you land with your feet farther apart from each other, you're going to be at a disadvantage. Well, that's exactly what we facilitate for our opponent. So would you make, for example, a side kick out? So essentially I'm just following with my foot where his foot is going. I don't know exactly even where the foot is going to go, like if you make another kick. Notice I'm just, at the very last moment, extending the distance between your feet just by an inch or so, extra. Would you make another kick? Kind of like this. I don't have to touch it with my hands. You already start falling because it's just too uncomfortable to stand with the feet wide apart. You make another kick. Kind of like that. So notice how I'm using legs against legs. If you make the same roundhouse kick at me, this would be silly and dangerous and probably would hurt a lot. If you make another roundhouse kick, I could do this, and this would give me a tremendous advantage because the leg starts making movements like snakes do. Now, how do we make a movement like that? I need to be able to lift my leg up first. That's what the difference is between the wave kick versus a snake kick. Wave kick starts with a step of the opposite foot towards the target, or sometimes hop and kick with the same foot that you bounced away from the ground with. With snake movements, you just simply lift the leg up. If you lift the leg, then the toes begin to lead. If your leg is not up, you cannot really lead with the toes. Here, the toes are very capable of going wherever they want to go. If you don't lift your leg and try to start with the toes leading from the ground, it just is not going to work. So, your leg needs to come up. Just this movement of the leg coming up already can be pretty nice defensive maneuver. Why? Because it can actually spook the opponent. For example, I'm about to kick you and you just lift your leg. Just that movement already can distract the opponent or give him an idea that maybe he doesn't want to run with a shin against the opponent's knee. Maybe he has such reflexes that he ends up kicking you before you kick him. All this, a number of reasons why people often stop their kick in midair if they just see the leg come up. But then you start moving your toes. Which direction to move your toes? Well, basically in the direction of the opponent's foot movement. So for example, if I'm kicking and I just move the toes, it's right, perfect. Very good. Again. Nice. Now, the first one was better than the second. In the second, I ended up facing him. And you don't want to face the opponent squaring off with the center line. So whenever possible, go in the direction so that you would end up behind the opponent's back. For example, here, yes, just like that. So much better to be behind the person's back. For example, I'm making a side kick. Nice. Being behind my butt is much safer, and you can do all kinds of mean things to me because I'm pretty much defenseless. Nice. Great. Now, what do you do when the person is being stretched out like that? When the opponent's feet end up further away from each other than they would feel comfortable with. Do it again. So here, I can tap into your leg. Just this. The movement basically drops your leg down if you are hesitant about bringing it down. Like if you make another kick. So here, I can literally just push down into your leg so that you would drop it. Because it can end up being like this if you make a kick, and here we stand and nothing is happening. So I can engage my arms and just help you out. Just pull your leg. Yeah? And then just push down onto my foot. Oh, leg. Yes, very good. And again. And push down on my foot. Boom. Yeah, like this. And you can actually drive it all the way down to the floor. And drive it down. Boom. Like this, yeah. Why am I talking about driving it down? Because it will take the person down. Now, one would think if you're planting the person's foot down on the floor, you're only doing them a favor. Watch this. Would you kick me again?
Sure.
So I do this. The foot is on the floor. I can still drive the leg further down. So the fact that the foot is on the floor is not always the end of the story. Kick again, here, and I just push your leg down, and notice what happens. You basically end up your back towards me, so I can do whatever I want here. And you really have very little defense. But it would kick me with the right leg.
Okay.
So I'm doing the same thing. Even here, for example, he's kind of stretched out. I can still just apply pressure on the knee, and off he goes. Put it kick again.
Sure.
See it. So here, for instance, the leg is kind of stuck up in the air. Fine. Not a problem. Sometimes it works even like this if you kick again. Yeah, here I can literally just pull him towards me. Because if the person is not quite sure what to do with his leg, help him out. Do it again.
Okay.
So here, I'm just pulling a little bit further away. Did you feel how just maybe an inch or so? And I'm also applying a little bit of pressure with my ankle in the area.
I have no balance left.
Yeah. Going to do it again. I can also do it with this leg. Same story. Just at the very last moment, another inch or two, just slightly off balancing. Does it make sense? Now, for example, if you make, let's say, a rear kick.
Okay.
Still possible. It's a little bit scary. You have to go behind the person's back as he's turning his back towards you. We'll do it again. So here, I'm going behind your back. And again, just apply pressure down on the leg, on the hip, or both. So, for example, if you do it again, yeah, I can just take your leg down like this. Or I can actually use my leg to catch the kicking leg and just simply apply a little pressure, and notice how I'm just messing with its stability at the very end. Let's do it one more time. And how did I mess with stability? I just simply apply a little pressure with my ankle. Kind of bump, a little bump. For example, if we do push hands. Let's say if we do push hands, sometimes feet get close to each other. And you can also apply a little pressure here with the ankle, pull the foot a little bit away from the standing foot. For example, here, you can apply a little bit of pressure with my shin, kind of like this. If it's the left leg and the left leg, again, I can apply a little pressure on the knee. Nice. And here, he is applying pressure on my shin, so I have to weasel out. So here, yeah, very good. Now you notice how you are in kind of predicament, and that's when you actually need to move your feet. If you put me in that kind of predicament, so just pushing my neck, I need to move my feet. Notice how I am actually weaseling out of this situation by doing a duck walk. It's a duck walk. It's what we do, for example, as children. Duck walking like this. Can you do it? Yeah, just like that. The idea is that it allows you to keep the upright position of his spine. More or less upright. It's not going to be perfect, but it's going to be better than being bent over. So if you put me in this kind of predicament again, notice what I'm doing? I'm actually duck walking right behind you. Literally escaping the problem without being bent over, bent out of shape. So if we do this kind of movements with the feet, this works. Sometimes also this works. Sometimes also this. Very good. So these are snake movements, by the way. Nice. Nice. We just constantly experiment. Where else can the leg go so that it will do its work? Yeah, just like that. See, I'm stepping on your foot sometimes. Like that. Ooh, yeah. So notice how I'm actually attacking the standing leg, rather than the one that's in front, but the back leg. So here, you can actually do something with my leg. You can literally pull from underneath me. I'm doing this. Yeah, just use the other leg. Yes, precisely. Just pushing it from underneath me. Boom. I suddenly have very little stability. If you do the same thing to me.
Okay.
Armbar.
All right.
Yep. Very good. Yeah, just like that. Just like that. See it? There we go. Seems like I'm in trouble, and suddenly I'm not.
The tables are turned.
Yeah, I think if you do the arm bar on that side, so maybe this will be more visible. So watch this. I'm just saying, okay, fine. You're doing arm bar on me. I'm going to do this with your leg. Or hand pin. So here. So hand pin is another option. Yeah. As you're doing hand pin on me, where are my legs? They're moving. I'm positioning them so that I'll be able to either apply pressure on the back of the calves, or he will shift weight from this compromised leg, and I'll just kick it from underneath him. Like this. What if you get the other arm in line? Nice. So here, an obvious one. How did I do it? I brought my center line, and then just simply got behind your back. And down you go. Again, these are snake movements with arms. How can I use the legs movements to facilitate that? Well, if you twist my arm, I use the leg movement to position my leg at the right place. Apply a little pressure with my shin. Notice how it makes it shift the weight onto the other leg. Then this one becomes movable. I wouldn't be able to move this leg or this foot if you had more than 50% of the weight on this foot. Like if you keep the weight on this foot forward. There's no chance I can move this leg. It's just solidly planted. It's grounded there. So what do? Apply a little pressure on it. Notice how the weight is in the back foot? Now can I move? With ease. Try this arm, maybe that one was a fluke. Very good. So sometimes I need to maneuver a little bit outside of his center line. Then pressure, then pulling of the leg, hooking of the leg. You get it? Here, for example, his left leg is now in front of my right leg. I can apply pressure in the back of the knee. He'll shift the weight onto the opposite leg, and then I just sweep this leg that I've got to hold him. How about the hand thing? Very nice. So I turn. Of course, I also end up doing arm bar. And of course, I can apply a little pressure on the calf here, and the same thing happens. A little bit of a hip bump or body check. If you do this on this side, again, notice how I'm going behind your back. Now I can do all kinds of things here and here, and it's okay that he's holding my hand. As a matter of fact, it's no help. It's only worse for you, right? I'm literally supporting your body. Do you feel it?
Yeah, if I let go, I feel like I'll fall.
That's exactly what's happening. So that's one of the tricks of the trade. That you position the person in a way that you're supporting him in a sense. And he starts relying on that support. And you simply give him a choice to let go and drop, or to hold on to, but be completely relaxed. So here, for example, just the distance between your feet is just a tiny bit more than between mine. And feel this. See what I'm doing? I'm hooking the other leg. So I'm literally getting hold of the back leg. Now, you have no leg to stand on because once I start shifting my weight towards you, you can't resist it. Or I can't adapt to the shift. If I push now, you can recover very easily by moving the back leg. Now, try to recover. Not so fast. So here, for example, your leg is behind mine. What do? I either go for the back leg, or I can actually do something with this leg. Notice I'm hooking it, and I'm just simply taking to it. That's all. So if you hook mine leg in the same way that I did to yours. See, I have about 50% of the weight on this leg, so you need to shift my weight away. Then it becomes lighter. You can move this foot. So you just apply pressure on this leg. There you go. Now you can move it. That's it. All right. Do it again. Then you can move. Yes. Very good. With this distance between my feet, I'll become very unstable. I can't move your foot. Okay, I will do whatever I can to zigzag around it. So for example here, I can apply a little pressure on it. If you don't shift the weight onto the opposite foot, then you'll have to recuperate somehow else. How do you do that? Well, you can actually bend the knee, like if you apply pressure on my knee. See what I'm doing? I'm bending my knee. I'm okay with that. Try it on the other side.
All right.
Yeah, I'm bending my knee. Literally saying, okay, you want to bend your knee? Fine, I'll bend mine. And sometimes, you can also do this. Would you do the same maneuver?
Sure.
I just sit on him. You just literally squat down on the opponent. If the shin goes against the shin, if your left shin goes against my left shin, the other left, this is right. Let's use the left forward. Yeah. So if shin goes against the shin, it may be uncomfortable to press the shin against the shin or knee against the knee. So what do you do then? Well, then you can also use for example, alternatives. Let's say I'm using a heel to apply pressure on ankle. And of course, it's not the only thing I'm doing. It may be just a distraction, or it may actually undermine your stability. Nice. So you can apply the same pressure on mine with the heel on my ankle. Yeah, that's very destabilizing. I can't stand. All of this can be used in a variety of situations, not only in the context of push hands, but also in a variety of other situations. Like, for example, if you grab my arm and try to do something to it.
All right.
I'm relaxing the arm and working on the leg instead. Because if I undermine structural support, then the opponent doesn't have a leg to stand on. They do something else. Very good. So what did I do? I used my opposite leg. Apply pressure on the knee, and down he goes. If you twist my other arm,
Okay.
so here, I can use the same thing. Basically, it's a crescent kick, but it's not a kick that I use a wave on. It's a snake movement. What do I mean by that? It's a movement of, I lift the knee, and then the toes lead, and then the leg follows. So what we're doing is developing the ability to move our legs in a way similar to the way we use when we perform snake movements with our arms. On this note, I will leave you up to this practice. Please take your time to develop the flexibility and stability to be able to move with your toes leading the whole leg. That's the snake movement, and I will invite you to play with it, practice it, experiment with it, and report to me what kind of results you get. I look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you. Namaste.